will be chasing this driver. Morgan Burkhardt rocking a new livery this week.
You still can't count out Nicholas Rice-Puto, obviously, there in that red number 15. We've got some other names that are showing some speed as well. As always, the top three at the end of the season will all receive trophies. Round one of season 3 of the Full Send Sims Esports iRacing Spec Miata Championship. Hi y'all, I'm Greg Kramer and welcome to a true Roval. And joining me once again for season 3 is Kyle. It's an absolute drag race. We're ready for season 3. Spec Miata Esports iRacing for Full Send Sims. We're green. And a really even start here as they head to the line. Beans on the inside, Morgan on the outside here. Down into turn 1 we go. Oh, look at this. So close. What's going to happen here? Look at this scrap. Wow, what a battle here. Rice-Puto floats high. Morgan gets the nose down underneath here. Here we go. And it's Burkhardt going to do it from the outside. Josh Shoto in that red and black car sweeps the outside. But look at that. Burkhardt went in incredibly deep. Big lunge by Rice-Puto down into 1. As we head down into turn 1, that is difficult math. And look at that move by Rice-Puto trying to get underneath Burkhardt and get him offline. Could not get it done. Everybody running a little bit wide in the back. The pressure Rice-Puto continues to heap on Morgan Burkhardt here. Mark on his right side, and I don't know if there was contact.
Oh, there's a push.
Forrester, he gets a run here, comes up to the inside, but as Morgan dives down to the inside. Ooh, look at this, side by side, almost 3 wide, up into turn 6. That's tough to do, and our friend Noah Jackson right in the middle of that again here. Braking duel. See Soto trying to fade over a little bit.
Boy,
how did they not touch? And all 3 of them. How did they not touch?
The wild card here because he's not. Oh, look at this. One to the left.
It's clouded and clouded again. Rice-Puto runs just a little bit wide. Hibbett side by side down the hill. If Hibbett can stay put. Watkins Glen opened in 1956 and in 1961 became the home of the U.S. Grand Prix until 1980. The short course currently used by a few series is a direct descendant of that glorious era. A full mile shorter than the long course, it is blazingly fast, with the outright lap record set in 1991 by Bernd Schneider in a trimmed out Porsche 962C at 149.5 miles per hour. With its straights connected only by flowing high-speed corners, for a momentum car driver, it is a drafting dream, but demands the very highest of skills to play a very high-speed game of chess successfully. Enter the combatants in the Full Send Sims Esports iRacing Spec Miatas, the perfect gladiators with the deftness and daring do required to win at the Glen. Welcome to round 8 of the fight for the Season 3 title here at a track that has as much speed as the Finger Lakes have beauty. Hi folks, I'm Greg Kramer, and joining me is Kyle Heyer. And Kyle, this track is not only a favorite of most every driver, but it also is mighty special to certain announcers.
Yeah, it holds a special place in my heart. This is my home track. Grew up in Rochester, about an hour and a half north of here. And this was my first exposure to the world of motorsport back with NASCAR in 2007. And over the years, I've seen a lot of racetracks, but this one still remains one of my all-time favorites. It's the super speedway of road courses. It's so fast, so formidable, and it retains that classic feel that I think is missing from a lot of modern race circuits around the world. So this one's a classic. And as we get closer to the end of the season here in the Full Send Spec Miata series, Greg, this is a great place to start settling some scores before the finale in a couple of weeks.
Well, you bet it is, because we've got this and 2 more races to go. And remember, with this new 10-race format, you only get 2 drops. And so the opportunities start to dwindle here just a little bit. And as you can see, after a problematic previous event, Nicholas Rice-Puto has claimed the lead now for Morgan Burkhardt. Not by a lot, mind you, only 8 points. Beans Forster is right in there. And I mean, you think about it, Kyle, how many points are left, and you consider the drops that are coming up. That top 6, 7 probably are still technically in this. This season is the last 3 races are going to be spectacular, because they have to be for any driver that wants to make that big step.
Yeah, we have another track that's actually quite similar to this one up next week. That's Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta at the 10th of October, which is a week from now. And there's a lot of carryover, I think, from a track like this one to a track like Road Atlanta. Very fast, very flowing. But we end the season at Sebring, which in some ways has some similarities, has some high speeds, but we're running the club course, which is going to be definitely a rough and tumble race, I think, especially with that shortcut. So it'll be a lot of fun to watch, Greg, but the season points are certainly fierce at the top of the order. But qualifying underway now for our 2 20-minute races this evening, and this is a very, very fast racetrack.
Oh, a wickedly fast. And as I was thinking about it, as you take a look at this track, you can see, I mean, in this layout, the tightest corner is turn 1, the 90. And the rest of it is absolutely so fast and flowing. And, the speeds you can generate through that bus stop are just remarkable. In these cars, it's just a series of quick flicks. And you can see the elevation change there too, Kyle. This place really climbs and drops. Some people don't recognize how steep that climb is from the bottom of turn 2 up through turn 5.
And there's, I think, a couple key places on this racetrack where you can make passes. One of them is the 90 at turn number 1. The other one is one of my favorite aspects of this racetrack, Greg, and that is the corner they call the inner loop. Some drivers call it the bus stop. This is a really fast-flowing area of the racetrack. With the repave, they installed much wider curbs, which means you can go through here a whole lot faster than you could before. You could absolutely go through here side by side, and I'll bet we'll see it plenty tonight.
Absolutely, and during a track description that we did for one of the Fry Challenge races, the driver who did it said, as you come into this, he said, here you just murder the curbs. And I thought that was a great description. And I was going to say, Kyle, as I was thinking back to that lap by Baron Schneider, which was just unbelievable, and that white Blaupunk Porsche just trimmed it out completely, because he said, I think I can get 150 mile an hour average lap. Missed it by a half a mile an hour, but after that repave in 2015 and how much grip this track offers, can you imagine what one of those old IMSA prototypes could have done around that track now?
It's interesting because this track has changed over the years. But it hasn't changed that much. There's still a couple of key corners that remain unchanged. The 90 is one of them. The climb up the S's is another. And the carousel has remained pretty much the same. But the old track, as originally built, actually used to basically more S-curve where turn 6 is right below a center screen. That used to cut through what is now the garage area that you see on the very bottom left of the screen. And then what is now the front straightaway was extremely short and actually was leading into the 90, which was the last corner. The front straightaway was here on the short chute from 1 to 2. And actually on the left there is the original start stand that was found in a barn in the mid to late 2000s. They recovered it and put it back in its original location. So just a lot of history here at this former U.S. Grand Prix track.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that turn 6, that it was a corner that they call Big Bend, because it was a really high-speed turn to the right. You drop into it and then come back out, and then that what is now the main straight, certainly now elongated, but it whoops, a little brush with the wall there. It was quite literally slightly curving. I mean, it was, but so much of this track from its very inception remains the same, utilizing this short course, and that's what makes it so fun. And everybody talks about some of the great corners around this track, but that last turn here on the short course called Turn 7, that is a car eater if you get it wrong.
And so is turn 1 on the opening lap, especially in stock car races. It's so fast and so wide that it opens up a lot of diving opportunities. Let's talk about track limits because we have to. A lot of pavement here with the safety configurations made in the late 2000s. The exit of turn 1, as long as you keep a tire touching the curbing, that's all fair game. The other place that will get you is the carousel exit, but that's also completely fair game. Don't even need to touch a curb there. You can go as wide as you want. Then in the second to last turn, turn 6, you got to keep a tire touching curb there. And pretty much everywhere else, the wall is the limit. So it's going to be fun to watch.
I was going to say, in the other spots, the limit's pretty clearly and very firmly defined, isn't it? And this is that run up through the S's. And, for this being an absolutely high-speed, fast-flowing road course, because of how close the barriers are and because of how quick you go, there's an amount of precision that you have to drive with here in a lot of the track that's almost street course-like. And if you get it wrong, like I said, it's going to eat a car, as we're on board with Skip Bach through that inner loop, or the bus stop, as they call it, now through that long winding turn 5, and you're saying at the exit here, you see those cones, you can run as far over that set like that, over those curbs, no problem.
Yep, totally, all fair game, and that's really a reflection of how the course is run typically in the real world when NASCAR is here. They don't do much in the way of enforcing track limits, so to keep it at least in the realm of believability as far from a driving perspective here in iRacing, they've left that fair game. Now, turn 1 this year in real life, the stock cars ran basically everywhere all the time, including at the exit of 1, and I imagine we'll see a change, but I'm glad at least you have to drive the track a little bit down there at that first corner. We've got a field of almost 30 cars, though, so the opening lap's going to be pretty critical. I don't think qualifying's such an enormous deal here, though, this week, Greg, because the slipstream here, the average speed is so high. I think passing opportunities are aplenty, and I think you can move forward if you don't have an amazing effort like Caleb Patry's kind of at the bottom half of the top 10 right now.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, that's where you want to catch somebody during a qualifying run where you may have two cars that punch that double wide hole for you, and then hope that susses out so you don't have to drop any speed coming out. And you could really benefit from it. And I mean, here, with these corners being so long, Kyle, you can easily draft in the corners.
Yeah, you can draft. I mean, you're almost above 90 miles an hour for the entire duration of the lap. So absolutely you can draft through the corners. You don't have to rely on any downforce. So it really is just a game of who can get on throttle quicker to beat each other down the straightaway. And you mentioned that street course precision. There goes Morgan Burkhardt with an engine expiring mid-corner. That's another thing you have to talk about is getting back on throttle. You want to downshift, get in the right torque band, but if you miss the shift, it's going to be a big boom here with how many revs you're carrying around this track.
Yeah, just so much time on full throttle. And speaking of Morgan Burkhardt, how about a shout out for some real world achievements this past weekend at the 60th running of the SCCA's championship runoffs. In his first ever runoffs race, Morgan put his Spec Racer Ford 3 on the pole in front of a field that was just chock full of gold medalists over the years. I had a mechanical problem during the race, but until that happened, he was part of a group of 4 that just left the rest of the pack and took off. And I think that for some of the old guard in SCCA Spec Racer Ford 3, I think he delivered a message that in maybe not too long a period, there might be a new sheriff in town here. And doing a really good job as we now hop on board with Camden Hibbett, currently quickest in this session, not by much. The other guy I wanted to make a mention of, just to clarify something, was our good friend Jordan Rick-Sagrini, who on every entry list at the runoffs, and I tried to let people know this wasn't how it was, he did run there. They had his name down as Jordan Rick Sagrini. So this is the same guy, and it was great to be able to call those guys, Kyle, in some real world racing after having called them here in the iRacing format for so long. It was a delight.
It was a lot of fun to call Jordan's races at Sebring and the Toyota GR Cup Series as well. He'll be at Indianapolis this weekend. I'll get to see him 3 more times. So I think he was entered at Nashville, so he has a race to make up as well. So there's Court Schmidt, leader of Full Send Sims and all other things here in regards to this league. 19th quick here in qualifying. I think he's down on his lap, and he's not going to get another go at it either, so he'll have some work to do. But this is going to be a really exciting race tonight with the high average speed. It's a wide racetrack, especially in a car like a Miata. You've got a lot of room to race, and you just have to make sure you don't get caught up in the pinch points on that run up the S's the first time, especially.
Absolutely. And, one of the things is a lot of this track, it's really quite wide, too. So there is room, but you've just still, because of the speeds, got to be really respectful of everybody that's around you here. And that's certainly going to keep things interesting. Camden Hibbett right now topping the order by about 0.2 of a second over Caleb Patry. Morgan Burkhardt sits third right now as the checker flag comes out. Nicholas Rice-Puto looks like he'll end up fourth. Beans Forrester ends up fifth. And Jordan Rick Sagrini, sixth. Then Josh Soto, Olivier Piatek, Jordan Butler, Skip Brock Jr. rounds out the top 10. So Court actually told me that he took his own school last Thursday night because he wanted to really get a little bit more input and knowledge of this great track. So while we are waiting for things to settle and get our grid set up, we always have to give, of course, a huge shout out to Full Send Sims and, of course, Court Schmidt, its owner, with all of his real world racing and his military sim experience. It was an absolutely perfect marriage to start creating racing sims, and they have quickly leapt up to be one of the absolute top ones in the business. We got to give a big shout out to Rob Greenwood and Final Turn Motorsports, who were very active at the runoffs with their drivers, Noah Harmon and Rob Bailey. And they've created a new Kart to Cars program for up-and-coming young driver development that'll provide young drivers and their parents knowledge needed to understand the racing world, aid and assistance in determining the desired path and to help them navigate it, and to work with the young drivers to continue motorsports as a potential career. Frank Rodriguez and 3P Logistics were there supporting Final Turn Motorsports at the runoffs, but they too have a new driver program that is available from school to full competition license. Top-notch cars will be available for 2024 rentals, and they also will be attending the 2024 runoffs with their own program. So absolutely great to hear. And of course, our brand new sponsor kicked off with us last Tuesday, Wine Country Motorsports, which is the racer's resource for helmets, suits, gloves, shoes, seats, and harnesses for well over 30 years. They also now are a retailer for sim racing gear and Full Send Sims. And here's one of the things they say: we have the best customer service in the business, and they answer the phone when some of their internet friends don't. So absolutely great to see. We already showed you the points, and we're getting ready to go. And this is a pretty large field, Kyle. So, and this is a much shorter lap than we normally have here at Watkins Glen.
Yeah, so let's get rolling with the starting lineup here, Greg. The front row, it's Camden Hibbett in the number 132, and he'll start alongside Caleb Patry in the number 998 on the outside of that front row.
Starting third, the number 40, two-time champion here, Morgan Burkhardt. And starting in the fourth spot, the 03 of Nicholas Rice-Puto.
And in fifth place, it's Beans Forster, another driver that was out at VIR last weekend. Jordan Rick Sagrini, another one that was at VIR in the runoffs last week. Starts sixth in the number 108.
Starting seventh is the 77 of Joshua Soto, joined by the number 62 of Olivier Piatek in eighth.
And ninth place is Jordan Butler in the number 72. Skip Brock Jr. rolls off 10th in the number 32 car.
Starting 11th, the 91 of Andrew Gilliland, and starting in the 12th spot, the 66 of Caleb Pocock.
And 13th place is Dean Dibdahl in the number 99. Good run last week at Lime Rock. Eric Hewo starts 14th in the number 24.
Yeah, Dibdahl, it's been quick the last couple of rounds. 89 is Jim Friedhofer. He will start 15th. And the 95 of Rocco Pasquarella will start in the 16th spot.
And 17th place, Max Spankin in the 00. Jonathan Murchison rolls off 18th in the 26th car. Wow. Speaking's hard tonight, Greg.
Well, you've been doing an awful lot of it this year. Starting in the 19th spot, the 172 of Court Schmidt. Starting 20th, the 17 of Christian Rice-Puto.
And 21st place, Dave Brown in the number 25 car. Seth Spolman starts 22nd in the 042.
Starting in the 23rd spot, the 962. Well, there's some nice synchrony for you.
Yes.
Jim Mayer, and starting in the 24th spot, the number 1 of Jose de las Casas.
And it looks like Les Chachik in the number 25th spot starts the 47 car alongside Rich Green in the 22 car in 26th place.
In the 27th spot, the 08 of Luis Villares. Starting in the 28th spot, the 73 of Wayne Buttermore.
And rounding out the field, it's Jorge Ortiz in the number 311. He starts 29th in the field. Well, they roll through the last couple of corners here. It's going to be a fast-paced race. 2 20-minute events here tonight, round number 8 of 10, the 2023 Full Send Sim Spec Miata Series. Greg, here we go at one of the most classic circuits in North American road racing. Miata's about to take the green.
Just under 2.5 miles in length. Pace car is in. Coming up to get this one started. We're green! Oh, a little bit maybe of an early move there by Piatek. If he didn't jump, he timed it to perfection. Look at that. Already up from 6, knocking on the door of a potential lead. Little touch right there, sending a couple of cars wide down into 1. That was not because of them. That was contact that forced them there. And through it all, even though he started 3rd, Morgan Burkhardt to the lead as we start climbing the S's. This is that one tricky area you were talking about where it's really tough to run side by side, and they go, yeah, right, we can do it 3 abreast.
They were 3 wide heading in through 2, and I think the car that got knocked towards the back was the 03 of Rice Pudo, so he got shuffled all the way back to 14th. Looked like Beans Forster's making big moves here on the run down into the bus stop for the first time.
Here it is, just murder the curb, as they said. And Hibbett dropping another spot. This has been a tough opening lap for him from that pole spot, as so far, Kyle, and I hate to jinx it, but everybody looking pretty solid here as Piatek drops down and chases Morgan Burkhardt here as we make this short shoot run into turn 6.
Yeah, nice run, nice opening lap so far. We haven't really seen a lot of pushing and shoving past the opening couple of corners now into turn number 6 for the first time. Burkhardt leads, but he's wide, and that is off track there, so you have to be cautious not to do that too many times. Piatek still second. A little bit of side-by-side. I think that's Butler going by Skip Brock Jr. and turned as Murchison in front of the field at turn 7.
Oh, that was a tough one. It looked like Ortiz maybe got tapped there. Did a brilliant job of saving it, but away they continue here. But man, is he going to drop through the field there?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. That was the 26 at Murchison. Yeah, sorry about that. Running in the same livery, Kyle.
Yeah, and Gilliland. Whoa, there's 2 cars. Gord Schmidt's turned around. And Dean Dibdahl, another one that has gone around with him.
That's a shame. Dibdahl has been so impressive. And that was, Court, I don't know if that was a late move to start, but Dibdahl never saw him coming down to the apex here.
Yeah, there's a...
Watch for it.
Looks to the right of the 03 and just kind of gets caught off guard by the braking point of the other cars, gets in there real deep and turns around. But that's an unfortunate ending to Court's race. That's terminal damage on the 172.
It's a shame in the pits and done as we go back here and watch this battle. And right now, Burkhardt over Piatek. Beans Forster, you talked about that great start that he had. And Camden Hibbett sitting in that 4th spot now. Then a little bit of a gap behind Josh Soto there to Rocco Pasquarella, who had a really good start to this one. In front of Butler, Skip Brock, and Christian Rice Pudo, your top 10.
Yeah, and Caleb Patry, his internet's dropped out, so he's dropped out of the front pack. Remember back to Road America, he barely finished the race because it was so patchy, but it looks like it's going to bite him tonight, and he will drop out of the contention for the win.
Oh, that's just awful, but I mean, he also had that tough start. You hate to see that happening, but here you get a good example of that draft. As you can see now, it is, now, is that considered?
That's pretty wide. Got away with it, though.
Overrun?
Yeah, that is wide, but it's just an off track. The slowdown comes a little bit beyond that. So you can get away with that a couple of times, but too many more of that, and Morgan will get the slap on the wrist from the virtual stewards. So you got to use that wisely. I just don't know if you're going to get away. You know, you're going to get reeled back in the draft pretty easily. So I would save that for later in the race as an escape route more than I would to try to run away from the field.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, Piatek got a great toe, dives to the apex, and Burkhardt squares it up so that he can tuck right in behind him and shut the door on Beans Forster in case he had any ideas of coming through here. As we're watching Andrew Gilliland giving chase right now to Nicholas Rice Pudo, now back into 11th.
Yeah, really good rebound here, considering the slow start. He's making his way back forward. You see the cars running wide. Again, that's fair game here. But Andrew Gillen, we actually have an onboard of Andrew. We didn't really get to see him a whole lot last week, but here he is in the number 91. Tucks in behind the 17 of Christian Rice-Budo. He's gone by Jordan Butler for 11th.
Well, that was a crisp down change, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Watch it, just reached over, nailed it, turns in. And I hesitate to ask, look at that little look. I even hesitate to wonder how young this guy is, but he sure drives older.
Certainly does, and I think that's one of the cool things about sim racing is you can get your start before you can even legally drive, and I think that's going to help in a lot of cases. Here comes Burkhardt on the outside of one, and he's going to bring Forster with him, 2x2 up the hill.
This is interesting because here, of course, you'll have that inside line. Oh, and now Piatek going to get absolutely freight trained. And now he drops down, and is Forster going to get a little bit of a push from Rick Segrini? Maybe, maybe not. But right now, it is Soto benefiting from a double ×2 draft here. But look at that, he's got it, but he can't do anything with it.
And Forster drops into second place. Piatek to third. That was Camden Hibbett giving him the shove. Rick Segrini just a little bit behind in the 108. That blue and white car. Then Rocco Pasquarella leading the next charge here as the 17 of Rice-Budo tries to go the long way around of Skip Brock Jr. Good scraps here as these long corners lead to a lot of front scrub. If you don't get rotated quite right, it's going to lead into some understeer.
Christian Rice-Budo here currently in the 10th spot, wants that 9th position from Skip Brock and got a nice run, but he's going to get kind of stuck on the outside here. And then look at that square up move he tried to do. Now, can he repeat it here? The problem is he's got the 72 of Jordan Butler right there ready to cut down underneath, and he finally had to just give it up, or he may have lost another spot here. And Andrew Gilliland hanging right with these guys, behind him in 13th, the number 1 of Jose de las Casas.
Yeah, playing the game nicely there. Gilliland had the opportunity to pop out of line, but if you make a move into turn 1, it's going to cost you speed for the rest of the lap. Once you get on throttle at turn 1, I've counted, it's over 30 seconds until you lift again here. So you have to nail that turn 1 exit because it'll carry speed for over half the lap.
And that's just exceptional. You rarely have that kind of a length absolutely flat out, but these guys do it. And you're right, it's so critical not to screw up in one, as you just carry that deficit all the way to the next braking zone, which would be right here. And Camden Hibbett once again finds himself just the wrong spot, gets shuffled a little bit, as Josh Soto now has moved into the top 4 for the first time in this one.
And Morgan Burkhardt has begun to try to run away from the field. It's 7/10 of an advantage right now. I just don't think that you can really do that effectively if you've got cars packed up behind you. And Forster and Piatek, they know how to play the game here. They're going to stay in line and try to run him back down. And already they've run him down 3/10 from where he was a half a lap ago.
It's just incredible what these packs can do in terms of increasing the entire group's velocity. And when you've got 3, 4, 5 cars like that, it just is even more exponential here. And the smart move is exactly what they're doing. They've got Morgan now to the point where he's trying to do a little bob and weave, and here comes Camden up to the inside of Josh Soto. See if he's going to be able to make it stick, and he elects not to. But Soto gives him room, and Camden may have just got in Soto's head a little bit. But Soto used that wide run and was able to come back across at this stage. But I think at this point, Kyle, everybody's a little leery of doing too much in terms of battling, because even through 4 windshields, you can see Morgan Burkhardt's is much smaller than the rest.
Yeah, and last time he was actually a little quicker than Forster, just gained a lot and then lost a lot, just not quite as much by the end of the lap. And Forster and Piatek still are remaining nose to tail. In the background, though, Christian Rice-Budo, Skip Brock Jr. and Jordan Butler are still scrapping for 9th place, side by side into the inner loop here.
Ooh, really, really close. And that got the number 17 of Christian Rice-Budo offline significantly, but he was able to straighten it right up and able to hang on to his position. And meanwhile, Nicholas Rice-Budo has worked his way to the front of this group, now sits in the 7th spot. And if he can only get somebody to come and help him, they might be able to close down that deficit he had of about 2.9, as the 89 at Jim Friedhofer has a moment out there.
Let's see what happened to him. Wonder if he had some assistance. There's the 26 to the inside. Jonathan Murchison, they get together on corner exit.
Boy, for Murchison, that's the second incident he's been involved in. And you hate to see that. Look at that for the 89 of Friedhofer. Big crab going on right now. As Soto makes the lunge for third inside of the green machine there of Piatek. But Piatek, does he have the pace to counter the move? He's got the inside heading into the uphill S's here. They're side by side. How long can Soto stay parked there? Because now you come up to turn 4 and he's going to have that inside run. And Soto right now probably needs to tuck in line, or because he didn't have a dance partner out there.
And Camden Hibbett's got a big run on both of them, and Forster was able to use that brief reprieve from Piatek as an opportunity to run Burkhardt back down from 5/10 down to 2/10 on the back straightaway there. So Burkhardt's not able to extend his lead any further than he's gotten it, but it does seem like they're working really hard to keep him in sight.
Yeah, well, they understand, right, that Burkhardt, we know it, when he gets an actual clear enough break to be out of the toe, he can really do some pretty spectacular stuff. And these guys, when they started scrapping a little bit, they realized and saw Morgan ease away, and suddenly they just clean everything up, get right back in line, and just continue to try and play the game. Now, one of them gets a good run on Burkhardt. That would be Beans. Obviously, right now, Burkhardt just grazes the wall, it looked like. He's going to go for it because, by all means, you want Burkhardt to have somebody in front of him, if at all possible.
Yeah, and you want to be able to stunt the momentum there. And speaking of momentum, the reason why you see drivers running so wide is because the less you have to turn the wheel, the more momentum you can carry. Now, again, at the exit of 6 and the exit of turn 5 at the carousel, you can run a little wide. Turn 1, though, that'll get you if you go too far off there. Now, I've tested this theory that running wide, my hunch was that it wasn't actually faster, and my theory was proven to be correct when I was by myself. But in traffic, the raceability is a lot better when you can just carry that mid-corner speed a lot better. You can dive in later and all that. Look at Piatek now up the inside of Forster here for second. But I was able to basically run equivalent lap times staying on course and running way off, just because it's that classic speed versus distance equation that you've talked about in the past, Greg.
Right, but it makes sense, doesn't it, that if you're in a pack, one, if the guy in front of you goes wide, you're going to stay with him to make sure you're keeping to maximize any kind of a draft he's offering up. But two, you're probably rolling more speed through the corner anyway because you're in that draft. And that sounds like, based on your experimentation, Dr. Einstein, that the speed offsets that little bit of a longer distance.
Yeah, it definitely can. Now, in the last lap maneuver, am I staying on track? No. I'm going to use every bit that I can because the rules are the same for everyone, and you might as well. But I think you don't want to give yourself any disadvantage, especially in a battle that is as fierce as this one for the title. But yeah, it certainly is interesting to watch everybody maximize the track. Burkhardt again runs just a hair wide, but that's all fair game as we head up the hill now with a 5, make that 6-car breakaway. Jordan Rick-Segrini is tucked on the back.
Yeah, Jordan has done an absolutely superb job here. We haven't really talked about him. And it's really because he hasn't tried to do anything. He hasn't tried to make a pass. He hasn't stuck a nose in. He's just sort of circulating right now, just staying in and letting all these guys duke it out. And, at this point, he is studying. There's no question about that.
Now watch how much more speed he can carry into the bus stop as the front accordions together. You can just drive in so much harder because everyone ahead of you has to lift slightly earlier to not run into the back of the guy ahead of him. So, Morgan Burkhardt's got some internet problems as well. Took out Patry earlier. Could it take out the race leader?
Wow, that would be a huge development here. And he ran pretty wide there, and Piatek really had a good head of steam built up, but he just gives him the little tap, backs up, and opts to continue here as we're coming up on 6.5 minutes to go here in race 1. And there's a couple of things I'd like to say here, Kyle, but I don't want to jinx it because of just the way things have been. So just going to let it go and just say this is some really, really good racing going on at this point, turning into the 90 as they call it. You don't really realize, unless you've been there. Ooh, Rick-Segrini way wide. That as you turn into turn 1 there, Kyle, it really drops away from you, doesn't it?
It does. There's huge elevation here. And the lowest point on the circuit, even on the full course, is actually right here at the bottom of turn 2. You're falling a couple of stories. It happens smoothly. It's not like an incredibly abrupt transition, but you do lose a little bit of compression on the car as you turn in because of the track falling away. And this, because it happens over such a smooth duration, you're not going to necessarily feel the huge contact. Forster gets shuffled off at the bus stop.
He does, and Piatek had gone to the lead just before Forster had that moment. Let's watch it here. Look at that. Piatek almost dropping the rights into the grass here. And yeah, Forster tried to turn in, and Soto was there.
Yeah, there's too many cars. This math doesn't work. You can do 2 wide into the bus stop, not 3. A really shallow angle there for the 77 and for Piatek, but Piatek got it done and just dropped it up alongside the 40. Burkhardt didn't defend it all the way, and that allowed him to sneak up the inside and steal it away. Nicely done there by Piatek.
It was really well done. And the other thing was, for Soto, the problem when somebody comes from that far out where Forster was, you look in your mirror, you're not going to see him. And so he started his turn in, and then at that point recognized that Soto was there and already had been. It wasn't like Soto just dive bombed in. He was planted there, but he was for Forster, both of them were so far out of each other's mirrors they just couldn't see each other.
So under 5 minutes to go, still about 5 laps. Make that 4 laps left. Short laps here, about 1:30. And Burkhardt now is second. I want to be second place on the final lap. I don't want to have to defend like Piatek does, because you can get past either driver's left or driver's right into the bus stop, depending on the maneuvers and how tight the guy behind you wants to pinch you. So he's going to open up. Burkhardt's not going to go for it. Doesn't feel the pressure just yet, but it's a really hard move to defend in an MX-5 here.
I would think. And now, did you notice that they're getting even more aggressive on that initial curb? They're now catching some air. They are just throwing it in there right now, doing everything they can to get after it. As we go back to this, there's the 91 of Gilliland, Brock, and Butler in the 11th, 10th, and 9th places, respectively, and doing a great job as here comes our pack. Then Forster. And, Forster didn't lose that much momentum, Kyle, but look at just what that little bit of lost momentum has done to that margin.
Yeah, he's just going to hope that these drivers will fight for more than a lap. If they do, he'll be right back in the mix for a podium. I'm not sure he can get all the way to the lead, but anything can happen here if they start kind of slicing and dicing a bit early. 3 laps to go this time by, and Bean's running 129.5. He's basically on par with everyone ahead of him, so he's got pace to be in the... Oh, that was wide, though. That almost too wide, I think. Got to be real cautious with that.
Oh, and look at Hibbett. He got up on Soto and then tried to turn in and was too close. Had to float way out wide to not get into him. And now look at what happened here to his draft at this stage, as Soto looks to be popping to the outside, trying to see if he can round up Burkhardt going into the S's here. He's not close enough and tucks back in again. And for Hibbett, that little bit of momentum loss is allowing Rick Zagrini to come right up and race him, and they're going side by side through the outer loop. And Rick Zagrini, nice idea to run wide in and then square up and come down underneath. And Hibbett sort of sensed it looked like.
Yeah, did a good job defending from that. Piatek and Burkhardt beginning to separate themselves. This is what Morgan wants. He would love to control this situation by being second with nobody behind him, and that's exactly what they're shaping up to do right now. Some damage to the rear of Piatek's car from all the pushing and shoving that they've done, and Greg, 2 laps to go this time through.
Oh, and it's getting curiouser and curiouser, isn't it? Here we go. And boy, Morgan got a huge run through turn 7 and got into Piatek enough that it really loosened Morgan up. And they are just right now determined to keep this little gap going over Soto and Hibbett and see if they can't make this a mano-a-mano race here. And Rick Zagrini, huge wide down there. And I don't know, the game seems to be letting him go with all that.
If you lift when you do that, it'll give it back to you. But if you keep your foot in it, it'll catch you. So I think he was able to lift just enough.
All right.
Got to gain an advantage.
Yeah, that makes sense. If you don't, it's sort of self-policing. But look at this. These two, great discipline here to try and crack this one open for the two of them. And Soto now needs Hibbett to really, really get to him and let him go.
Oof. Man,
wow.
Dropping right sides on the grass. They didn't pave those curbs quite wide enough.
Yeah, no kidding. And I think that all starts by the way they're just jumping that first left-hand curb. And is Soto closing up? I mean, the margin 0.55, and no, it's still about exactly the same.
Rixagrini passed Forster, yep.
Yep. All right, this should be white flag, 1 to go here. Oh, Burkhardt almost dropped that left rear as he tried to rotate to set up, and he grazes the wall. Here we go, white flag coming out. 1 lap to go here in race 1, and let's see what happens. Burkhardt getting a nice run. Is he gonna try anything down into the 90? I would think not. I think he does not want to lose that momentum you talked about by getting overslowed into 1. And I think the entry into the bus stop here, Kyle, could be crazy.
Big hand movement there by Piatek. He had a real loose moment through the bottom of the hill. Soto's going to have an enormous run here, though, if Burkhardt goes alongside Piatek early on the straightaway. So they'll have to defend from the 77 as well. Last run down the back straightaway, and this is just going to be so difficult to defend. Morgan's going to have to pop out, and here it is. Oh, Piatek swings to the left.
Now he swings back in, and boy, I'll tell you, it was aggressive, but you know, that move out was just to open his arc back in a little bit here and managed to do the job. Morgan not quite close enough. So does Morgan have another idea of where he wants to try something here? Here we go, out of turn number 5. This huge run down into 6. Piatek, you know he's going to try and protect here. And I'm waiting for somebody to swing out wide like this and then try and get underneath. But Morgan's going to try and round him up around the outside. Way off over there. Did he gain an advantage? He surely did. He's got position coming in here. Piatek is not going to have an answer here. And Soto going to try something. He's going to straight line it as Burkhardt moves down to the inside. And it is Burkhardt getting the win over Piatek. Soto giving it everything he could as well. Then Hibbett and Rixagrini and Beans Forrester had lost just too much ground to do anything. And if you do that on the last lap, Kyle, is there a way for a penalty to be enforced if that was a really egregious exit out of 6?
Yeah, there is a provision for that if it was a slowdown, but oh, that's really wide. I mean, he didn't get penalized for it, though, and I have to wonder.
That's what I'm saying.
It certainly is a slow down out there, but there is the edge of the pavement there. You can see where the pavement changes color. It's a different strip of asphalt, and typically the lines of where you can run wide in iRacing are associated with the change in pavement, and that's out there. But he has the left side on it. I'm not sure if that's where the detection zone is, but got away with it. I mean, that was way wide, but fair play, I guess.
Well, and the only thing is if Piatek was, going, okay, we can only have our left side tires have to be touching that curb, and he drove it the way he believes he should have, I can see him, going, okay, what happened there? But nonetheless, what a fascinating finish here, and watch this once again here.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose if there was a penalty and you were Morgan Burkhardt, you could probably argue that when they get to track out here, watch where Piatek is. You could argue that they wouldn't have gotten through there also. So there's that discussion as well. But gets in here into turn 7 and doesn't get in here too hot and wash up. Just does a nice job of exiting and keeping momentum. And Soto had a big run coming, just not enough time to use it.
Yeah, he really did. And Hibbett, started on pole, finishing 4th, and it was just a matter of placement in that long train here. So race 1 in the books, and as we said, folks, it was going to be a drafting duel extraordinaire, and that's exactly what it turned into. Now during this little break, Kyle, what are the drivers thinking about, all right, what do I have to do different now to be able to get farther up into that queue?
Well, they've learned a lot, right? I mean, everyone came into the night knowing it was going to be a drafty race, knowing that you were going to have to slice and dice into turn 1 and into the bus stop. But I think a lot of times you come to this racetrack, especially in stock cars, and you go, the bus stop is your last shot. I don't think that's the case. We saw it happen here in turn 6 and 7, that you can make that crossover move. I've seen that happen in stock cars a number of times. Just if you stay driver's right at the exit of 6, you have that lunge into 7. That worked. And I expect a lot of drivers to take note of that heading into the second race. And clearly, the run into the bus stop has worked out as well. So this feels to me like there's no limitations on where you can put a race car side by side. We've done it in basically every corner.
Yeah, it certainly seems like it, and yeah, that's certainly going to make things interesting here. While we have this break, I want to remind everybody that we do have one more of the Full Send Sims racing schools that's going to be unfolding. Remember, if you're a league member, no problem for you to join it. And for those who are struggling a little bit just in general, need just some little tips here and there, it's a good way to do it. And that is going to be for Sebring and the club course, which of course is where our season finale race will be. And if you want more in-depth one-on-one training, those sessions are available as well. Just all you have to do is go to fullsendsims.com and you can book online right there. You can get coached by two-time champ Morgan Burkhardt, Beans Forrester, Conrad Chachik, and get some really intense one-on-one training. And I do have to say here, getting back to Morgan running at the runoffs, in my introductions, I absolutely had to do it. I said he may be a rookie at the runoffs, but he is a two-time champion of the Full Send Sims iRacing series. And got a lot of response on that because a lot of people, Kyle, are apparently tuning in.
That's really neat, really cool to hear. Just wanted to fill in an update from Skip Brock Jr. He was talking about the turn one exit penalty, and he was saying that it's clearing itself. The penalty is self-serving because this car, laden with the weight that it needs to replicate the Spec Miata chassis, it's slow enough that the sim is determined that you can't gain an advantage out there, which is something I haven't seen before, but it makes sense.
Oh, that's what it was. Okay.
If you do that in a prototype, it'll get you. You do it in a Miata that you can't carry enough speed to make speed.
I love it.
Fair game.
Yeah, you can't make that math work of the distance versus speed thing. Hey, just got an update from Court Schmidt, and he said, I am so sorry. Just an FYI, my foot slipped off the brake. And he said he already sent Dean a message and apologized, said that was all on me. So, hey, how about that? Court, leading by example here.
Yeah, absolutely. It didn't look like he meant to do that. It was just one of those scenarios where you saw the car juke to the right, and it was an avoidance maneuver more than anything. But once you commit to the brakes, you're committed, especially at a track as fast as this one. These cars might not, do Mach 2 in a straight line, but you're above 100 most of the lap around here, and that's quick. Let's not get I guess dissuaded by the speeds of modern race cars and GT3s and everything constantly being at 160. 100 miles an hour is quick, and you can make things happen quickly at that speed, even in the virtual world.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, stuff comes at you in a huge hurry, and you think about as you're up over 100 miles an hour, the distance you travel in a tenth of a second or a half a second, and it's so easy at that point if you're on the absolute limit. If you miss your turn-in point by a quarter of a second, it's going to drastically affect where you end up on the exit unless you slow. So there's all kinds of things you've really got to be mindful of here. And that's one of the reasons this track, with the grip that it has now, is just so compelling to watch any kind of racing at. And by the way, you had to miss, that previous race. And we've been talking on and off about how the grass now they have now factored in, some actual grip. I think they may have gone a smidge too far.
Yeah, we saw last week at Lime Rock tumbling.
Yeah, exactly. Just get sideways, get that tire onto the grass, and it just hooks and away you go. So I'm sure they'll be hunting for that happy medium at this point.
Yes, they've gotten it right at a couple of places, but there are some tracks that it will turn you right over. We saw at Lime Rock probably a dozen cars flip over last week, which is probably too much if I had to wager. So, I mean, it wouldn't be wildly incorrect at a place like VAR on a straightaway or something at 100 miles an hour, but maybe not at 15 at Lime Rock. But
right.
Anyways,
hey, I just wanted to point out here, look there, starting in that 7th spot. What a great race for Rocco Pascarella in the 95.
Yeah. Really
did a superb job in that and knocking on the door of that top 5. So that's great to see.
Yeah, really nice run for Rocco, and we'll see how he can do starting on the inside row for the start here. I typically like the left lane for starts here at Watkins Glen just because I have that safety of the runoff and I don't feel pinched. But the inside lane tends to get moving quicker because that's the lane that the leader starts in here. So we'll see if he can make up any ground on the initial launch.
And how about Andrew Gilliland, too? That young man just missing a top 10 finish in that number 91. So he has given it one heck of a ride here this weekend, and great to see. And then I love it. Look at the graphics on Jose's car.
Oh, man.
All Barbie all the time.
I dig it.
I love it.
Where's the
By the way,
where's the Oppenheimer
Jose is, yeah, exactly, is one of the new co-owners of the FARA Championship Series. That is a Florida-based series, and they just released their 2024 schedule, and it looks like a good one. So other options for people to be able to get out and see some racing in the real world, or race, of course, as well. So it's so nice to have him here running with us, and we're getting ready for this second race to get underway. And I got to tell you, what I was wanted to say so bad in that first race, Kyle, that I dare not have said because it would have caused everything, was how clean a race it was.
The start in particular was exceptionally clean. That run through turn one, I know there was some juking and diving in the background, but no major contact from what I could tell. And we got all the way through the opening lap with no real signs of strife. So that's always great. We'll see if we can do it again. Race 2 has typically been the wilder one here, so we'll see how it goes, especially with the aggression level ticked up. And you mentioned the grip here. Your corner speeds are so high that just like the straightaways, things happen quick.
Oh, absolutely. You just, because of the grip and the arc of the corners, they're long, fast corners, and then you add in a ton of grip. And these Miatas make good mechanical grip. The roll speed is just absolutely insane here as we are coming up and getting ready to get this second race underway.
All right, last couple of corners behind the safety car, and it'll head for home here. One car pulls way off. That is Caleb Patry. I don't think his internet is holding up, so he's going to pull out of the way. But pace car pulls off here, Greg, and let's get ready to rumble. Race 2 here at Watkins Glen. They used to call it New York's Thunder Road.
Well, it is that on occasion, and we're green, and we're back to screaming is what I'd call it with these cars here. And look at that big move, Jordan Rixagrini right to the wall, taking Rocco Pasquarella right with him. Here's the turn-in point. Ooh, cars sideways, slipping and sliding. I think that's Camden Hibbett, and somebody getting caught up. Now we've got 2, 3, 4 cars. We're gathered up in that. Oh, man, there it is. Camden Hibbett, who had started on pole in that first race and still had a decent run. I could see him get tapped and go around and then got collected. So not quite as clean a start this time, but now heading up for the first time through the inner loop or the bus stop, and Pasquarella right there has Brock absolutely glued to that rear deck. Great start by Brock up into 5th.
Yeah, Forster got shuffled back as well to 11th place. We'll go back and look at that incident on the opening corner in a little while, but Burkhardt, Piatek again separating themselves, and then Jordan Rixagrini has put himself in a great position. Rocco Pasquarella, as you mentioned, up into 4th, and Brock Jr., Rice Budo, Butler, and Soto, the rest of your top 8.
This is pretty critical for Nicholas Rice Budo here to get a good run in here and move up a little bit, because he came in with the points lead over Morgan, not by much, and Morgan went on to win it. So Rice Budo needs to find some pace and move up and be able to start battling for this lead. He's got some time, but wow, what an aggressive move there by Jordan Butler, who had to finally give it up, but gave it one heck of a run. And Josh Soto lingering, looking to the inside of Butler down into turn 1, and had the line, had the overlap, and makes it through.
Jose de la Casas tries to split the difference there with Forster and Jonathan Murchison, who had a troublesome race 1. He managed to work his way back up into the top 15 and into the top 10 for a moment. Now he drops back out of it as Forster moves up. Rice Budo and Brock Jr. side by side.
And there's this long, long, long run up and into the inner loop, and Brock way down to the inside, and then says, now if I stay down here, I'm just going to get swallowed up. And wow, look at Morgan bounding over the curbs, had a little slide, saved it. And even with all that activity, he opens up a little bit of a gap back to Piatek.
Yeah, it definitely was a wild one. There's Hibbett. Got kind of body slammed there by, wow, that was a big hit by the 77, but he also got
Soto
hit from somewhere else.
And then the 00 of Bankin got collected up into that and got, there it is, you can see it. Watch Bankin.
Yeah, so the bottom car, the white car with red stripes, is Pasquarella. And right there, Soto gets hit, and then right there, they get hooked together again.
Oh, yeah.
And around goes Hibbett.
And he let it play. Here comes Bankin, who was already in a different incident. and then came thundering in there. Ooh, Buttermore got tapped, and that sent a couple of guys flying, and banking slamming into Camden Hibbett. So, well, look at this. Burkhardt has been able on his own here to hang on to that little bit of a margin he got. And Jordan Rixagrini now trying to do everything he can possible with Piatek to push him forward, catch Burkhardt, and behind them a little bit of a margin, half a second back to Rocco Pascarella, who's got Rice Puto on his 6, and also Skip Brock. So a little bit of a gap opening a little earlier than we saw in that first race. But look at that draft and how quick already Pascarella has been able to, as he lets Rice Puto through, how quickly they've been able to close right back up in that lead group.
Yeah, Burkhardt wasn't able to run away in the first race. I don't think he will in this race either, mostly because the driver that's keeping him honest is the same driver as last race, Olivier Piatek. And now Jordan Rixagrini, a teammate to Burkhardt. That's the challenge that Piatek will have to navigate now, is the teammate situation, which he didn't have to contend with in the first race of the evening. So it's going to get busy up here. But again, these drivers know how to play the game. It's the wild cards, maybe Pascarella in particular, that could bring some spice up here to the front.
Yeah, he's shown a real turn of speed here, and you're absolutely right. If he gets up into this mix, and you know, it's one of those deals where a lot of the guys here up at the very sharp end of things, I don't know how many laps they have around Pascarella, and everybody races them a little differently, as Jose de las Casas dropped back into the 13th spot. I think he just got through and picked up the 12th spot on Dean Dibdahl. You know, but sometimes, you know, the first time you find yourself running up in that lead pack, people don't really know how you race, and you don't know how they do, and that's when little things can happen.
Joshua Soto, Skip Brock Jr., Jordan Butler in a little 3-man race for, whoa, that was tight for 6th place. Almost a miscommunication there that led to contact. Here's Rixagrini to the inside of Piatek into the bus stop, and Piatek gives it up and falls into line. I think that's a wise move at this stage of the race. Rice Puto and Pascarella right behind in 4th and 5th.
It's a wise move in terms of momentum, but now you've got the two teammates together and a rear gunner, if you will, for Burkhardt. So, you know, that's sort of the dichotomy, isn't it? You know, in a way, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't there. And now you've just got to stick with it and get really creative.
Yeah, certainly. And Piatek is so close, couldn't even see him behind Rixagrini.
I was just thinking that too.
Oh, man, where'd he go? There he is. Pops out from behind. And 15 minutes to go. It's all about lining up. How quickly can you get back to throttle?
And it really comes down to, you know, the throttle. You just do it to sort of plant, you know, you lift and plant the nose just a little bit. And then if you're not on the throttle hard before you clip the apex, you're going to be slow out. That's just how these cars race. Oh, look at this.
Look
Side
out.
by each. And Soto getting really crossed up. And I don't know if that was Pascarella grazing him as he came back, or if Soto just got loosened up on the curb here. Let's watch.
Yeah, I think Pascarella comes back and just tags Soto. That was a big save by the 77.
Wow.
That was
well
quick
done,
hands.
Joshua. Yeah.
Holy cow.
Yeah, Joshua's sort of been the pinball in this race, hasn't he?
He has been.
Yep. All right, now Pascarella down to the inside. He's going to try that move. Soto has to wait. Late lunge by Jordan Butler on Brock. Butler in that black car with the orange and white trim. And thought about it and then said, yeah, I better get back in position or this is going to end in tears. And so we tucked back in here, and he's got now Beans Forrester all over the back of Jordan Butler.
Well, we've got a 4-car breakaway at the front. That's exactly what Rice Puto wants to see. Doesn't want any distraction from cars behind him. And just focus on the 3 ahead as we make the halfway point of this race. It's Burkhardt, Rixagrini, Piatek, and Rice Puto. And Morgan Burkhardt's not been able to get away. It's stabilized at about 3 or 4 tenths of a second.
Yeah, he builds this, you know, these little gaps and spots, and then as soon as you get into, a long straight, and the draft comes into play, he just gets closed up on here. And did you see there? That was a really nice indication of how Morgan a little bit later turn on, which allows him to be a little more aggressive on the throttle. And Nicholas Rice Puto has the nose underneath Piatek. And is Piatek going to have enough position? No, Rice Puto drifts to his left, and that is going to drop Piatek now into 4th. as Beans Forster coming up on the inside of Jordan Butler through the exit of the S's here and trying to stay really tight. He had a nice run. I thought might be a little closer to the back of this. And Soto getting squeezed so far to the right, he drops his tires, Kyle.
Wow, the 95 threw it into the bus stop. They're all going to get wadded up together here. One car shoots off to the right. It's Soto, and he spins.
Oh, he has had a tough race. And with that, neither one of those guys was going to give, were they?
No, and there has been a change up front. It happened like this. Watch Morgan Burkhardt here in the number 40. In a stage track left as Rick Segrini heads up the inside, and this was just a nice lead change facilitation by the two teammates. So Rick Segrini is now the leader of the race, despite the cars looking like they're in the same order.
Yeah, it's nice that they at least have those different colored wheels on these team cars to help us out just a little bit. As now, are these two going to be able to do anything? Well, immediately Nicholas Rice-Puto goes, I think not, and dives. Is he going to get them both? Boy, from that onboard run, it looked like he might have had the pace to do it and dive underneath. But now look at Rick Segrini, opens the wheel up on the exit, and he's going to park around the outside here of Rice-Puto as we head up into the S's. And all Rice-Puto has to really do here is stay put. But look at Rick Segrini, gets that little toe from Morgan, and by the time they get halfway through the exit at 3, he's already cleared Rice-Puto again. That's the power of the toe mid-corner at this layout.
And didn't help that Piatek got to Rice-Puto a bit too late and kind of gave him a shot as they were changing direction. So that didn't help the forward drive for Rice-Puto. But at least we know that he can get by him, and his mission is to do that once again as Burkhardt is all over the back of his teammate here through the outer loop.
Start falling away as you exit this turn. So you get that little bit of a negative camber feel as it falls away. Burkhardt, is he going to do anything here into turn 6? I would think at this point he'd really like to see if he could work with his teammate Rick Segrini and try and open this up just a little bit. But he's already seen Rice-Puto come up along the inside.
Under 10 minutes to go, and Rice-Puto, I don't think he's got a big enough run this time to repeat what he did a lap ago. But Morgan and Jordan are working a lot closer together now than they were the last time around, pushing each other down the front straightaway.
And the real trick is if you're going to draft somebody and actually bump draft them all the way down a straight, you have to understand that you've got to brake just a smidge before you normally would to make sure that you're clear off of their bumper before they brake. And these guys do this so much, they've got that pretty much down to an art, I would think, at this stage.
Burkhardt dropping a tire at 105 miles an hour on the right next to that Armco. And here comes Rice-Puto looking to the right, but sitting on it for now, not going to make the move.
Yeah, it's just Burkhardt didn't lose quite enough of that momentum, and Rice-Puto not wanting to risk anything that would cause him to lose the draft here. And look what Beans Forster has done here. He has quickly, efficiently worked his way by Pasquarella, Butler, and he's now up into the 6th spot with only Skip Brock in front of him. And then, though, he's got that really big margin now, 5 seconds from Skip Brock up to Piatek at this point. So Beans, all he can do is just get into 5th and then hope those guys up front start scrapping.
Yeah, Jordan Butler's had a pretty exceptional night, continues to run 7th place, right behind Forster here. And Rocco Pasquarella still in contention for a top 5 spot as well. That's Skip Brock Jr. that holds it. Everyone else behind him wants it, as the two leaders still keep their 0.2 of a second distance on Rice-Puto. But tell you what, that 0-3 is just lurking here. I don't think the full-on aggression has started just yet.
I tend to agree with you, and also I'm watching that later turn into turn 1. Those two cars up front, they seem to be just scrubbing off a little bit more of that speed. And I'm watching Rice-Puto that as he rolls through turn 1, he actually closes that gap up a little bit. And doesn't seem to hurt him on the exit at all. And now Piatek, look at that. Look at him pull up here. Huge run by Piatek. Is he going to do anything? And he elects to breathe out of it.
I think we're seeing a lot of restraint right now by 3rd and 4th place. They could make moves, but it's not going to do them anything just yet. That's not going to work the way that they want it to. If you make the pass now, you're going to give the advantage to the other drivers as they get to sit behind and watch everything unfold. And Rocco Pasquarella has had an incident in the inner loop.
Oh boy, it just pulls over to a stop. See if we can see what happens here. Oh, he got the guardrail.
Oh man, that is not a fun one to hit.
Well, I'll tell you, if you got force feedback on that wheel, you're going to feel this.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Let's watch it.
Just misjudged that. Yeah, watch this here.
Oh man, that's something that you couldn't do previously with the older scan of Watkins Glen, as Rice Pudo has a look for a second. The previous scan, which was done in 2007, the curbing wasn't wide enough to do that without getting a cut course. Now, you can't get a half a car width off to the inside before you hit the wall. So you can get as much as you want to cut that. You can totally do it until you get to the fence, and that's what we saw catch out the 95.
Yeah, until the barrier turns into a can opener.
Yeah, it's good at it too, I'll tell you. It's been there for a long time.
You bet it has. It will always win here. And this is where we saw Piatek before get that monster run. And is he at this stage going to try anything? And again, Rick Sangrini doing a little bob and weave here, and down in they go.
Just flying over the curbs there. Again, one of the other advantages to iRacing is that you're not going to have a suspension failure. So you can really clobber those things as hard as you want with really no mind for your equipment, which means that you get those really aggressive race lines through there and carry a lot of speed.
And that's what, I mean, it's just so fun then, to know you can just chuck it in. And in terms of damage, in terms of, the curbs or whatever, you're going to be okay. Now they can still fling you and do stuff, but it does make it a lot of fun. And now Rice Pudo, he got through there really well. And let's see if he's got enough. Because sometimes you don't want to be right on the bumper. If you're thinking of making a move, you want maybe a half a car length between you and the guys in front. So you could just run up on them a little bit. And he didn't have quite that good a run to be able to do that. Here we go, climbing the hill once again.
Back to about 4 laps to go. And Piatek sitting back a bit. I wonder if this is maybe to build a run here. Because if you're right on top of the drivers ahead of you, that slingshot effect isn't nearly as strong. Maybe doing some experimentation to see how far back he's got to lay to get that big run.
I think you're absolutely right. I think this is, you're still studying at this stage. Because he was able to make up a nice chunk of that, so he knows he can get a pull. And that will be drastically exaggerated if the guys up front with a lap or so to go start going side by each, as Skip Brock looking like a rally driver through this inner loop that time.
People tell me that they don't like the bus stop because it's narrow and tricky to make passes, and I love it exactly for the reason that we just saw. You can just hammer the curbs, you can sling the car through it. It's so much fun to watch and so much fun to drive. It does start to get a little tedious when you get into prototype and open wheel machinery because you start bottoming out instead of taking the curb the fun way. But in tin top cars like this with plenty of suspension travel, I'm ramping that thing 10 feet in the air. I don't care.
Well, absolutely. And the other part is, that is one high-speed threading of a needle, going through there. And that's just exhilarating.
Whoa,
just on its
out.
Oh, Rick Sangrini wide. Burkhardt going to have a bit of overlap here. And Rick Sangrini doesn't try and fight him and immediately drops in.
And
so lead change with what? 2 laps to go?
It'll be 2 to go next time by. I'm just surprised Rice Pudo didn't swing for that there. He could have gotten alongside him in the S's, and these cars, terminal velocity isn't all that fast, so you can go through there side by side and at least split the teammates up, but he elected again to stay in line. I wonder if they've got a gentleman agreement between Rice Pudo and Piatek to maybe take on the teammates amongst themselves here shortly. Look at Beans Forster to the inside of Skip Brock Jr. here into the inner loop.
Does he have it? Oh, side by side, Brock now. And Beans, nice job giving him enough room. And Beans gets a great exit through that second after the point. Jordan Butler says, I found my leader here, and dives in underneath them, and Brock might get frozen out. And now Butler is going to say, well, I'm just going to see if I can take this all the way to the top of this queue. But now he's going to get freight trained. He'll be stuck on the outside. And young Mr. Gilliland coming right up there as well. All of them trying to just sort of freeze Brock here a little bit. And does Brock give them enough room? Nice piece of driving by Brock to not pinch anybody or run them wide on the exit. Kudos to Skip there.
And that was a lot of fun to watch. Here's for second, Rice Pudo down to the inside of Rick Segrini, and he's got it. 2 laps to go.
Oh, but
Way
he runs
wide.
really, really wide. Comes back in, and I thought for a minute Piatek might think about it. But look at that. That exchange and that running way wide like that. The deficit now to Morgan. He's going to really need Morgan's teammate now, ironically, to help him get to the front.
Half a second. He's going to need both laps to make up this gap, and he's going to have to gain in every corner. He can't afford to lose, can't afford to go defensive either, but he's going to have to keep Jordan behind him. They made up some ground, though, 2/10 back on that back stretch. That was a really good bus stop for the 0-3. Really nice run.
It sure was. Look at the ground he made up through there. You're right, Kyle. Just hooked it up to perfection here.
Excellent slingshot, and he's going to have enough of a run here to close in within about 1/10.5 by the time they get to turn 6. It'll be white flag next time by, and Rice Pudo's going to get a couple shots at him here if he plays this right.
Well, got to get this one right. Don't overslow. Roll as much speed as you can. Don't go too far off here. Get yourself set up. Boy, Burkhardt gets so close. I think he got in there a little hot. You could hear that scrub as he had to turn in and a little bit more aggressively than he wanted. And that's going to bring Rice Pudo up close. White flag coming out here as we start the final lap, race 2 of round 8. And Rice Pudo is there. And a little bit of a gap now back to Rick Segrini and Piatek. Not much, mind you. But now let's see, is Rice Pudo going to be able to get any kind of a tow to try and get through into the bus stop? And Morgan rolled so much speed through that bus stop, or the S's entry and up the hill here, Kyle. I don't know.
No,
he's a long ways back.
Look at Rice Pudo. Piatek. But Rice Pudo did not get a very good run leaving turn 1. He lost a couple of tenths. He's gained 2 of them back, though, into the run into the inner loop. Rick Segrini and Piatek are going to fight amongst themselves. That's probably their last opportunity to win this race gone, but Rice Pudo is close. 2 tenths back now. He needs to nail this exit, and he'll have one shot, but he's pushing hard through the carousel.
Yeah, he got his exit of the inner loop was really, really strong once again. But then once they got midpoint of turn 5, Morgan just started to draw away. But now here comes that tow.
Here we go.
This is going to be fascinating, Kyle. This corner, and Rice Pudo, a little bit of a slide, but he's close. And he bobbled by Burkhardt here. Here we go. Burkhardt bobbing and weaving. Now Rice Pudo going to try and straight line it. I don't think he's got enough. No, it is Burkhardt. Really, really close. Rice Pudo giving it everything he could. The margin of victory, 89 1/1000ths. Piatek over Rick Segrini. For 3rd and 4th, Butler Forster wraps up the top 5 spot. Here comes the battle with Jose De Las Casas and Les Kracek. And it is going to be De Las Casas. Barbie is in the 10th story of her apartment.
Oh man, I think this is one of those finishes, Greg, that you're pushing the throttle stop through the floorboard, just trying to find anything that you can. There's the margin, 89 thousandths of a second.
Wow. That
is close stuff. And Nicholas had a good run. He just needed that start-finish line to be a couple hundred yards further down the racetrack.
Absolutely. And hey, how about a shout-out here? Young Andrew Gilliland, 10th in the first race, 8th in this one. Absolutely. I mean, not too far off. 20 thousandths off of a driver of the experience of Beans Forrester. Not too bad, Andrew.
That was
great to have you with us.
Really good. Yeah, super good. Yeah. Jonathan Murchison rebounded as well.
I was going to say, nice to see him after that problematic first race show what he could do and be right up there in the top 10. Then there's Jose as well. So that was fun. And Rick Segrini just got dropped. Was that a penalty that was assessed?
Rick Segrini, what did he end up? Dropped.
Well, he had come across the line in 4th, but now I show him in 11th.
Yeah, could be. Could be a time-related penalty.
That's a big development there. Yep, there he is now in 11th. Rich Green, a really nice race. Same for Wayne Buttermore. Nice to have them up in the top 15. Luis Millares and Caleb Patry, just another problematic race. A lot of it seemed to be fuel, didn't it? by that internet connection. And for Soto, and to me especially, for Dibdall and Pasquarella, those two guys, these last couple of races coming in here, have been mighty and really impressive. And Dibdall just had a problematic double event here, but Pasquarella, boy, was he good at the start of this one.
Yeah, he really was. Just didn't get the finish he deserved. Olivier Piatek, though, comes home on the podium. Didn't quite have a shot at the win in race 2, but you're up there in both races, Olivier, tonight. Slicing and dicing with Morgan Burkhardt and Rice Spudo and Jordan Rick-Segrini. Take us through your evening here at Watkins Glen.
Yeah, it was a good race. I decided to be nice to them in qualifying. I gave everyone the draft, so hurt myself and put all of them some quick laps in, just being nice. And then, race 1, had a insane start. I don't know how I timed that. They got straight to third, and then just pushed up. Got second first. Had a really good battle with Morgan. Dropped spots a couple times, but yeah, finished second. Last lap, I didn't know you could go wide like that and not get a slowdown. So that's why I didn't squeeze him. If I knew, the turnout would have been different.
Well, we were kind of wondering about that, Olivier, because there were a couple of times it looked like, in turn 6, that you drove a more quote-unquote proper line, and others would swing out wide and definitely gain a little bit of an advantage. And it, kind of seemed that bit you a little bit.
Yeah, I don't think it was anything major. I knew you could do that, but I was trying to get in practice, and I didn't notice a major time difference, and I didn't know if we were allowed to do it, so I just decided to be safe and not do it at all in the race. I don't really think it cost me too much time, though.
Well, good to hear. Good to hear. And obviously, this was such a drafting duel and chess match here. It was just tough to figure out. At one point, you were coming up the hill, and we thought maybe you had an opportunity to split Burkhardt and Rick-Segrini, and you opted to lay back a little bit. Were you trying to learn how much toe you could get and maybe be able to do something into the inner loop?
No, just sometimes you just don't want to be on top of them coming to the chicane. I had a really good run. My plan was to work with Nick and get to the lead because he's my Delta Sport teammate, but he just didn't really ever go to the lead, so that kind of messed me up.
Well, obviously, you were studying, trying, and you end up with a good, solid podium run in this one, so nicely done, Olivier.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate your time. Now move along to, let's talk to Morgan Burkhardt. Won a couple of races tonight. The last race was very tight, 89 thousandths of a second. Morgan fighting with your teammate and with some foes this evening, but looked like a lot of good fun. And you pick up another pair of victories that should help out in the points fight here.
Yeah, for sure. That was definitely needed after being away last week. But very, very close race and very good racing across the board tonight. Race 1 was a little bit less pressure. With just the one variable in Oliver, so just kind of ran with the race and wanted to put myself in the best spot that I could be in for the final couple laps, and was able to run around the outside of the second to last corner and set myself up nicely for the final one. But the second one was a little bit different. I was sitting behind Jordan the whole race, and I was actually pushing him through some of the corners, so I realized where I was faster than him, and with about, I think it was 2 or 3 to go, he went wide and won, and I took the opportunity and kind of just shot away a little bit from there, got myself a good gap, and then into the final lap, made sure that I could get a really good run up the hill on the last lap, better than Nick, and it was enough to carry me across the line.
Well, it's an absolutely fascinating run, and to see you after you had to miss because of the runoffs come back and do that double, obviously huge in terms of defending your championships at this point. And obviously you did a great job. You had to play something of a drafting game at the runoffs as well in Spec Racer Ford 3. Just want to tell you great congratulations on your pole there. And I understand it from some intrepid reporting, Morgan, that not only are you a successful rookie behind the wheel of a race car at the runoffs, that you were a pretty successful rookie at a game of poker in the villas.
I don't know where you would have gotten that from, but little birdie told me that was true. Up until about halfway through. About halfway through,
yeah. Yeah, I mean, really great, seriously, what you did at the runoffs. Unfortunate that the car let you down. But as I've said here, that I think you delivered a message to the real world that for some of the old guard, that there might be a new sheriff in town. And congratulate. And the way you hung with that group of 3 incredibly experienced Spec Racer drivers for that whole race, just impressive stuff. So, and I did get your introduction in as he may be a rookie at the runoff, but he's a 2-time champion. So
I heard that. I appreciate it.
You bet. Well earned on every level, my friend.
Thank you very much.
You bet.
All right, Nicholas Rice-Puto comes home just shy, 89 thousandths of a second away from a win tonight. That was fun. All that slicing and dicing and drafting and side-by-side through the bus stop. How much fun did you have tonight? It looked like a lot out there.
It was a lot of fun, the second race. The first race, I had a really rough start. They made it 3 wide off the start, and I just went super wide, and then I got hit again. But the second race was much better.
And you know what was interesting to me, Nicholas, was on this track, I think is it apparent to you maybe that because you're just so flat out all the time, that the draft is not so much a draft that can help you get a big run on somebody, as opposed to being something you just can't afford to lose. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what happened the first race. I was able to claw my way back up to 7th, and I was just losing time to the leaders. If you lose it, you're pretty much done.
Yeah, and I mean it was obvious, but man, just a great run in that second race, and it looked to me also at one point coming up through the S's, you may have had an opportunity with maybe about 4 or 5 laps to go to split Morgan and Jordan and get in between them, and it almost looked like you opted not to. Surprised me a little bit. What was your mindset at that time, if you can remember that moment?
I just didn't want to go too wide through the bus stop and then let Morgan and Jordan get away. That was my thinking. So I wasn't sure exactly how to play it. To be honest.
Well, it's such a massive chess game at these speeds, doing working the draft. And as I said, if you lose the draft here, it's going to hurt you a lot more than it will benefit you in terms of a run. And so, you just got to be so careful about where you stick the nose. And you played that game well enough, especially in this second race, to end up right on the middle step of the podium, man. Well done.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Appreciate it. We'll see you next week, Nick.
See ya.
All right, Greg, that's going to wrap up the drivers that were at the pointy end here tonight. Good run, good points round for Morgan Burkhardt to make the championship. Pretty interesting, though, but 2 rounds remain. One at Road Atlanta and one back at Sebring on the club course.
Absolutely, and both of them I think are going to be fascinating. One quick thing I want to mention, we talked about Jose de las Casas up in 9th, and already talked about the fact that FARA now has its 24 schedule out. Also, they are looking at implementing a pro Spec Miata class and series in the FARA championship with purse money and the like. So for all of you guys that are real world Spec Miata drivers, keep that in mind, because that might be another place to be able to go and get after it. And I also want to say, nicely done to Les Chacek for that run up into the top 10. Always great to see, some new faces circulate up into that. Once again, as you mentioned, round 8 now in the books, and this next race, talk about going from fast and treacherous to really fast and really treacherous. Going to Road Atlanta.
It's going to be so much fun, Greg. Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta, one of my favorite tracks in the country. You'll be absent for that one, unfortunately, but you'll be back for the season finale at Sebring. Final thoughts?
And the irony is I'll miss being able to call Road Atlanta here because I'll be at Road Atlanta.
Yes.
So, and right in the middle of the hosting the fan forum for the big Tuesday night welcome party. But final thoughts here. I was delighted with how clean the racing went here for the most part, and obviously really, really competitive as always. Want to say a big thank you, of course, to Final Turn Motorsports and 3P Logistics and now Wine Country Motorsports for being 3 exceptional presenting sponsors here. We appreciate it. And of course, Full Send Sims and Court Schmidt and everything that they do. Next round of the championship, Road Atlanta, and that is going to be spectacular as well. And so for Kyle Haya and for Finian DeCuna, who's always active in the background for us and has filled in on occasion, I'm Greg Creamer. Thanks for joining us here in the beautiful Finger Lakes of upstate New York, and we'll see you next time just north of the Atlanta metro area. Till then, everybody, take good care.